exclusively talk about dirt bikes
100%.
the whole time.
All right. All right, Mike.
Nice.
I had to.
I love it.
That's your fog. I didn't want to do intro music on the risk of all the cool songs I could think of were. I didn't want to get copyrighted, so we couldn't do that. But
TVMA on all that.
What would you like your intro music to be?
I'm a big fan of Stand Up by The Prodigy.
Okay. You listen to like rock and stuff?
I do. Listen to a lot of rock, a lot of metal.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we're here this morning. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name is Cody Jones, owner of Wheels Up.
My name is Michael Cudahy, one of the area coaches and a Wheels Up Enduro coach.
Coach Cuddy.
Coach Cuddy.
Sweet. So Wheels Up Enduro is kind of, is it a team? What is Wheels Up Enduro?
Wheels Up Enduro, I like to give a little bit of the backstory of how it was. I like to think that Wheels Up Enduro was born out of demand and need.
Yep.
Cody and I are actively involved in NICA, the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, which I have deep love and appreciation for.
NICA's cool. NICA just got done with its first season here in Missouri, right?
Right. And
First race season.
First race season.
Second season.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Cool.
I mean, the things that Chris Molesky and Kerry Molesky did to bring that to the St. Louis area and make it legit is amazing.
Yeah, that was when we opened the shop. That was one of the things that led me to opening, or kind of justified me opening a mountain bike shop. Is that Chris had been working on NICA, and that we were going to have an organized league for kids, because that's really why I opened the shop. Was, I wanted to see kind of more progressive trails come to the area, because I knew that's what we needed to get a younger generation of riders in. We have awesome trails here, and they're definitely more cross country oriented, and I think NICA is that way as well.
100%.
And I think one of the things that really gets kids excited about riding a mountain bike is hitting jumps and riding downhill, and I know that's my favorite kind of mountain biking,
for sure.
And probably most of the guys here in the shop, and that's what gets kids into it too. So I guess you guys are looking to kind of bridge that gap. And
We are. Cody is coach supporter for the Missouri League, and I was a chief course setter, still am, and a coach for NICA. And I like to just organically tell things how they happened. And we had a lot of student athletes coming up, and really to the point of, cornering me and like, Coach Mike, we want to do an Enduro team. We want to do an Enduro team. We want to, do all this stuff. And I really didn't have the means in my possession to do it. And I was like, there's a lot of liability, and, and Cody and I, just through working, Cody was like, I might have an answer for that. And it just kind of organically developed, and it grew from there. And you're absolutely right to tandem on what you said about bridging that gap.
Yeah.
Especially in the St. Louis area here. I mean, we're building the Wheels Up Enduro team for those parents and those kids who are already dedicated and good riders, have great bikes.
Yeah.
But it's also for the parents who, my kid is now looking at this Red Bull Rampage stuff and jumping, and there's local features where he goes out with his friends and he's taking pictures of him sending it through the air.
Yeah.
That's where we bridge the gap, because we do that. We want to do that. In disclaimer, mountain biking is an inherently dangerous sport, and enduro mountain bike racing is gnarly.
Yep.
We are racing stuff that is hard to walk up, sometimes impossible to walk down.
Yep.
And that's the gap we want to bridge, is to get these kids ready and to do it in a safe environment,
Right.
as safe as possible, with airbags, to show them all the basics, how to jump, how to drop, and associate those features on the trail, and really give them the benefit of a lot of mistakes, a lot of broken bones,
Right.
a lot of dumb things that we have all done.
And that's the issue, I think, now, just coming from a bike shop perspective. Bikes are so good now. I think, for a lot of parents and stuff, when we were growing up, even if you were a mountain biker, or a lot of parents, kids who are getting into the sport now, they never really mountain biked or anything like that. But even then, the bikes weren't as capable. We're talking about kids are now on 170 mil travel bikes, or they're on full suspension bikes, or working up to that, or that's what everybody on TikTok or YouTube or whatever else is riding, and they see these guys sending stuff. And when you're just a couple of 13-year-old boys hanging out together in the woods hitting jumps, no one's there to kind of regulate that. And I think that's what's really cool, especially, you know, with Wheels Up and the reputation Wheels Up has had over the years, is, you know, helping develop that responsible riding. So making sure that, you know, when kids are going out there and sending it, I mean, just from a bike shop perspective, like, I hate to call these guys kids, but when newer riders or younger riders start hitting jumps, they wholly and sideways, you know, just like, I see much broken stuff on bikes, or kids are going out and they're riding, you know, with their buddies and not touching their bikes at all, and then they keep going out. So I think it's important to have experienced riders, people with a good background in working with kids, or like in your case, Mike, you're a nurse.
I am registered nurse,
so
health coach.
Huge, you know, like, I think that's perfect for
I was a
mountain
paramedic
bike
before
coach.
that. Yeah, I'm pretty handy if somebody gets injured.
Yeah,
So.
and you know the risk as well. So you're going to be watching kind of previous to kids getting hurt and being able to address those things and let them know, like, hey, don't do this, or don't land sideways. So it's going to save kind of, you know, most importantly, how's the bike? So that's what I worry about when things
We're
happen.
not limited by
but then
technology.
also the kids, you know, we want to keep them safe. So no, I think it's super cool. How would, just to kind of revert back, let's say I'm new to mountain biking, or my daughter's come to me and said she wants to get into mountain biking. How would I get in touch with you guys? How do I get that process started to get her on the Enduro team?
Well, I think that's a great segue to, you know, is the Wheels Up Enduro team going to be for every student athlete? The answer is no, right? Because, you know, if you're starting out mountain biking, you know, I would be looking at potentially programs like Wheels Up, you know, skills clinics, rides. We do the weekly rides, and also NICA. NICA is literally geared. It's an inclusive environment to where you can take a kid who is super green, never really ridden a mountain bike.
Sure.
And we spend time as NICA coaches getting these kids coached up in NICA. Right. Now, segueing into the Enduro team, these are for kids they've probably been through the Wheels Up program or been through NICA, and they're coached up and they're really looking for more. Right. So the answer is Wheels Up Enduro an inclusive entity? The answer is no.
Sure.
And the reason we can't be is because if I take a bunch of new riders, now I'm putting them at risk, right? Because the stuff that we're asking these kids to do, which is what they're going to be asked to do in an enduro race, a new rider is going to not be able to do, right? They don't have the baseline skills and the abilities yet to do that.
Sure.
Now, our hope is not only as the Enduro team, but through the other facets of Wheels Up, you know, and there's a lot of other great, you know, kids entities as far as, you know, locally, like STL mountain bike camps, to get these kids on bikes. You know, our main initiative is, you know, or especially mine, especially with Wheels Up, is looking at, you know, getting more kids on bikes. Right. I mean,
your whole life.
I mean, this has really now become, you know, what is my job? It's becoming a cycling advocate for youth, right? Looking at trying to get kids from the time that they're on a strider and get them to where they're having the conversations like we are today.
Yeah, and it's not so much getting kids on bikes, because that's natural. Every kid is going to want to ride a bike. All of us rode bikes growing up. Yeah, and it's just making bikes available, or making the trails and making the experience available to them, because I mean, I was 21 before I really got into actual mountain biking and started seeing trails around here. And then I was like, oh, why didn't anybody tell me all this existed? Like, it kind of blew my mind and opened up a whole new kind of, it really opened up the world to me. And, you know, I think, Mike, we've talked about this before, how the reason why it's so important, you know, to all of us, I think why we're so passionate about getting younger people or teenagers and kids into riding mountain bikes, is because it opens up a whole world. So, you know, if you're part of the Enduro team, or you take some Wheels Up classes and start getting trained up, eventually get on the Enduro team, you're going to have skills that you can take anywhere in the world, and you're going to be around like-minded people. So, you know, whether I want to go to Whistler, Canada, whether I want to go over to England somewhere, whether I want to go to Bike Park Wales or if I want to go down to Bentonville or right here at Two Rivers or something along those lines, I'm going to run into people who we're all going to speak the same language. We're all going to have kind of a commonality. We all watch the same YouTube videos, all week. So we all kind of, even though we could be, 8,000 miles away from each other, we're all going to kind of have that same basis. So it's really neat, the experience. If we can get a kid mountain biking and get them out on the trail and to find that passion, it's just good for physical and mental health, especially for kids to have that release. You're going to have, I think a lot of kids, maybe team sports isn't quite there for them. So it's a way to kind of be competitive with yourself, but still have teammates around to kind of support and prop you up. Because that's one of the things about mountain biking, or anytime you're out in the woods. I think, rock climbing is the same way, or any of these, whitewater rafting or whatever it may be. Everybody in that community is really supportive of each other. So it's a really positive kind of uplifting experience that you're not going to get elsewhere, because you're kind of, when you're out in the woods or doing, kind of more thrill-oriented activities like enduro mountain biking racing, there's an opportunity to get hurt. So I think everybody really watches out for each other, and it creates a camaraderie that you can't really get from playing on the soccer team.
No, I agree. I mean,
cool.
The common language we've spoken about, I mean, bikes have been a language that I've bonded with children, blended families, been on the West Coast, and even through being a nurse, being a registered nurse. Yeah. I opened up a lot of doors with some pretty cranky specialists, cardiologists, and people who nobody talked to, but that doctor had a $10,000 bike and he wanted to know how to ride it.
Yep.
And we'd go out and ride. And I mean, it blends cultures and economics, and speaking that common language, it's a skill. And to answer the other question about going out and sending it in the woods, I think there's a couple things that we want to come across. If you're going out in the woods by yourself or with just you and your buddy and you're sending at race pace, you're wrong. I'm not going out there and laying it down. I mean, there's probably 1 or 2, 3 maybe people who I'll go out to Chubb, put on full gear and just send it, race run. Other than that, you got to be careful.
Right.
And I don't think we have that right now. I think we have a lot of kids who are out there just like, there's no middle. There's no full gas. There's no gray area. There's no nothing. And you speak that same language where if you meet other people in the mountain bike community, they're going to keep you safe.
Yeah. And that's where you guys, I think, come in important. Because, I mean, there is a point of when you're young, I think, to really get after it.
And that's where that community and team aspect really is so important, because, getting to ride with their peers, right? That's obviously like all of us that have been riding for all these years. It's riding with your buddies, or it's riding with your friends, right? And building that community. We're really looking at tying in the safety factor to this, the team aspect to this, and really providing real support, right? Because, when inherently we go out to an enduro race, well, who designs these races? Typically adults, for adults. And are these races cross-country easy races?
No.
Well, the answer is no, right? So, we're looking at this as like, we want to give all these riders the best ability to safely complete these races and events, right? And give them every, between the race support, mechanical support at these events, and really kind of make it to where it's, these parents. I know Mike gives this analogy of this kid with a parent, and she's got a bike and 2 parts in her hands, wheel hanging, like, what do I do?
Yeah, I was down at Ironton. I will never forget it. There's certain indelible moments when you're trying to make something where you're like, this is going to work. Yeah. And one of the most vivid memories I have was actually at the Big Mountain Enduro race last year at Shepherd Mountain. Kid, wheel, burped the tire off the wheel, bike, walking, and this poor mother who really didn't know anything about mountain biking. It was just, how do we fix this? What do we do? And I went over and I was like, let me throw that wheel on you. He looks like
he was immediately disqualified from the race.
But. Yeah, like looks like that rear derailleur hanger's kind of bent. That rear what? And got him squared away. And so we want to provide an environment that not only we get these kids and these student athletes ready to be as safe as they can, but when they're at the race, they have support. And
And they can support themselves. I mean,
Right.
They have the understanding and knowledge.
So because we're live, I think on Facebook, ideally for the first time, it may just be on my personal page. But so there might be a lot of people tuning in. So I think, or a lot of people tuning in who maybe aren't from the mountain bike kind of area. So if your kids, if your kid's somewhat new to mountain biking or wants to get into it because some of their buddies at school ride and they think it looks cool, first off, they should look into maybe just getting signed up for a Wheels Up camp. You run a ton of camps. You've got jump clinics. You got all kinds of fun stuff. But people can look you up on your Facebook page.
And on my website, wheelsupmtb.com.
Okay, wheelsupmtb.com. So they can go there and sign up for a class. You also do private coaching, which is really awesome. You have classes for both kids.
And adults.
How young do kids start?
So we usually start about 24-inch wheel.
Okay.
And that usually leads kids somewhere between that 7 and 9 age range.
Cool.
So it's typically what we start for the actual skills clinics. We are working on a new program with Little Wheelers, which is going to be geared towards, kids that are on striders up to about 20-inch wheels.
So.
And that's something that the Enduro team is going to be working with as well. One of the big things for me is, not to mention getting kids working together with their peers, but, really empowering these kids that are awesome, right? Some of these kids, they have such a powerful voice. Getting to work with younger kids, right? Literally, and I say this jokingly in our meeting last night, when you see these kids that are on the Enduro team working with little kids, it makes them look like superheroes, right? And that's the most powerful thing. It's great for us coaches to be able to work and coach up these kids, but when you can have youth working with youth, that's when, there's no barrier for a lot of them. And what they can pick up and take away from is super empowering, and that's really where, I look at this as, really from a high level, obviously, I'm jokingly like the director, right?
Cody's all about generativity. Cody sees a kid born and getting on a bicycle and, growing up into it and all the stages. And
all
that's
the way up till 70 years old.
Fully.
Still ride a mountain bike when
I posted on Facebook one time. I was like,
81.
I mean,
that's good.
Yesterday,
Nice. Sometimes I call Cody up and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I just taught this 81-year-old guy how to ride a bike for the first time. I'm like, dude, that's so rad. Really?
Especially old enduro racers, because you can just take a lift to the top of the bike park and then sled back down.
I don't know. Jeff Paul might have a couple watts to say about that. Jeff Paul is a huge part of this program too. I mean, the way to apply some structure to it is Cody is the director. Cody has what I like to call the circus. I don't know if you've ever been to a Wheels Up jump clinic, but it's pretty impressive. I mean, it's Nitro Circus like, bro. I mean, there's friggin' big stadium jumps and ramps and all kinds of stuff. It's just amazing.
You see what's happening this year.
Yeah, and
even more cool stuff.
And then,
and Cody, you are. Would you call yourself a woodworker or carpenter?
I also own a small woodworking business.
Woodworker.
So I do custom furniture, cabinets, repairs. It's something that I started.
You also build ramps, though.
I do build ramps. I build some. We also have MTB Hopper. Not a sponsor, though really should be. Right? Wink, wink. Hint, hint. MTB Hopper. I have enough for your ramps. But yes, stuff that I build is, to help support, learning. Right. Where for me, I want to show up, for a skills clinic and be able to teach people in a very controlled environment to ride these type of features as safe as possible, right? Because inherently when we're out in the woods, there's trees, there's rocks, there's roots, there's other inherent risk outside of just the jump or the drop that they're riding. So if we can mitigate and limit a lot of those things, to where you can get that safe, repeatable, process of learning how to do it correctly in a safe area, that's really where Wheels Up is really geared for. I want to be able to teach little kids all the way up to adults, wherever your level or whatever your degree of difficulty is, whether you're wanting to learn how to just stand on your pedals and do balance pedals, bike and body separation, or you're looking at, hey, I want to hit an 8-foot tall jump into a big airbag, right? And eventually doing 360s or backflips and stuff like that.
It's looking for mustache. His
Yeah.
mustache needs. Where is he at? Is he here? Oh,
Let's
you need to
talk.
take. You need to take one of Cody's jump clinic things.
Make you
You
famous,
should.
man. Get that big shot. You
Yep.
pan it over.
And we have, and we do have one of those guys on Cody Rowe, who
Cody with a K.
Cody with a K is referred to him.
Okay, cool.
Because we do have 2 Codys on staff.
Okay.
So
you have a bunch of new people you brought on because before it was just you and Jeff
Right.
running most everything. So
yeah, so Jeff would work with me here in St. Louis,
Yep.
Out of town, because I've done stuff in Kansas, the rest of Missouri.
are you still
Illinois.
working across the state?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
I very much limited some of my travels
Okay.
with COVID.
Sure.
Obviously cutting back, as far as my overall travels, but hopefully, knock on wood, this year I'm looking at doing a lot more stuff throughout the state of Missouri,
No.
getting back into Kansas. I have plans to do stuff in West Virginia and South Carolina as well. So the Wheels Up trailer is going to be kind of getting around
Heck
a little bit more. Obviously, I kind of have I don't want to say spectacle, right? Because
It's a circus.
it's a lot of stuff that you could use to learn.
Right.
And I don't want to get known as somebody. Yes, I want to have all the airbags. I want to have all these features, aka bike toys,
Right.
as my wife might refer to them as. But to really help people learn how to do this at a level that is going to make them safer and ride for longer and have less issues, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of parents, and I think we've talked about it, is, this Wheels Up clinic is way cheaper than an emergency room visit.
Yeah,
And you can save a lot of emergency room visits.
It's ungodly cheap. And I think even if you've been riding mountain bikes for 10 years, it's important to take, a level 1 class or an introductory class, because you'll learn body positioning stuff, and we try to talk with people as much as possible about kind of keeping your weight in pedals and keeping balance pedals and all these different things, or just even how to lift the front end of your bike up to get over a root or rock in the trail. Those aren't inherently things you just know. And you could even ride for 5 years without kind of knowing a lot of these concepts, or maybe you slowly kind of develop them, but going to a course is going to kind of put that fine point on it, and it's going to associate an actual technique or a word to it. So when you're out there on the trail, you're kind of repeating those mantras almost.
It's not a natural position.
No, and it's going to make, by learning these little teeny things that you wouldn't even realize that maybe you're already doing, and you can polish up a bit by going to a course, it's going to allow you to ride longer. You're going to have more fun. You're obviously going to be safer. But yeah, I think for anybody, taking a course is super important. So new riders, experienced riders, adults or kids, look at Wheels Up, get signed up there. As far as the Enduro team goes, how does one get, let's say my kid does NICA, they're riding bluff fuel a lot, hitting the jump line. How do they get in contact with the Wheels Up Enduro team, how do they join the team, and what does it look like if somebody gets on the Wheels Up Enduro team?
We're going to do a launch meeting tomorrow night at Bike Center.
Yep. Launch meeting tomorrow night.
To lay out all the specifics.
Giving pricing, details on, practices, the events that we're looking at.
We could probably do we could probably do a little teaser right now, which is what we promised.
But also, to really answer your question, there will be a online sign up to where they'll be able to go in and register for
ages.
Ages are going to start right around that 5th, 6th grade through 12th grade.
Okay.
So I'm not, and I will say this, that 5th and 6th grade, I'm going to keep as kind of a loose term, because if I have a 4th grader and they're ripping, and
I know a few of
they
those
have
kids.
the ability, right? And that's where understand about this program.
Sure.
It's really not about age,
right?
And I use this same method in Wheels Up. We really are ability based.
Bell curve.
And that's really my primary focus, because I want kids riding with kids that are similar skills
yep.
and abilities. So that way they can all progress together. And sometimes as they move up, we'll get them up to the next group and give them a feel for where is the next level for them, and keep them moving through the process. But I have kids in my white group that range from age 7 to I have a rider who's 18 years old,
Right.
and he's riding in his ability level.
Right.
And he's been with my program for probably 6-7 years, and he's still there. And that's perfectly fine. And you know what? The kid has a blast.
And that's an important thing, I think, I know, like, when I ride, if I ride by myself, I'm far slower than if I ride with a buddy, because they're going to kind of keep you, so you progress a lot faster. You end up getting better faster if you're riding with other people that are a little bit above, or like you said, like giving somebody a taste of bumping them up, be like, hey, why don't you show up to this ride and join us, just once or whatever, things like that. So yeah, that's really cool. And I as a parent, with my daughter, I kind of look at, my only real job is to make sure she's set up for success as best as possible. So, once, the reason we opened a mountain bike shop is I knew that all I had to do was get people on a bike once. And if I got somebody on a trail, then they were going to either want to do it every single day for the rest of their lives from that moment forward, or they never want to get on another bicycle again. Rarely do I see the former. Normally, if I can get somebody on a mountain bike, they absolutely fall in love and they just want to do it nonstop. So, I try to make sure that, my daughter's always set up to be prepared. So again, reaching out to Wheels Up, getting that, even if it's a private session, if your kid's, super, I know, like, there's a lot of kids out there who are really introverted and just get really nervous around people. Set up a private session, something like that. Start getting your kid just moving forward with things, while everybody may not qualify for the Enduro team, just getting your kid in classes, getting them with other people riding bikes, just so they can see, because that's one of the harder things as a parent. If we're talking about basketball or baseball or soccer, there's this whole path forward that, we either did as kids, or, that we know other parents that do it. So it's kind of really clear. Whereas with mountain biking, it's like, all right, do I just drop my kid off at a park and just let them disappear? Like, how does this work?
No, there's a better way to do this.
Right. So
And
I think getting involved with like a training course, and getting involved with Wheels Up, just getting your kid around. Because that's the other thing, like, there might be 1 or 2 other kids at school. I think now we're starting to see those numbers bump up, but you may not know other parents who have kids that race NICA, or who mountain bike, or on a team, or whatever it may be. So,
I think Wheels Up is a great place to start to get introduced to that community, and we're going to point you in the right direction, whether it's Wheels Up or whether it's NICA. We just want more people on bikes.
Yeah.
We want them to be appropriately placed on the level that they're comfortable with, so they can build it for a lifetime of passion.
So we're at 10:38. Which means we had a solid half hour of trying to be, I think, answering questions like we should.
Cool. I think it's important to say we try to structure this program as parents, because we're all parents.
Yeah.
When I look at something, I want to know, what am I getting?
Right.
How much does it cost? And where do I got to be?
Right.
Some of those details are, like I said, Cody's the director. I'm the head coach in organizational only, but I mean, again, a huge part of this program is Coach Jeff Powell, who, if you haven't checked current events, is kind of fast. And just a compassionate guy, and just an excellent teacher, an excellent educator, and an excellent advocate for mountain biking. Jeff wears 3 hats. One of them's this one, the other one's the Wheels Up, and the other is Big Mountain Enduro. And Jeff's one of the coaches. And Jeff's going to be there on the ground. And what you're going to get is 1 practice a week is what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to divide it into 2 seasons. 2 seasons.
Okay.
Basically basically a February through July.
Okay.
And then a July through November.
Nice.
No Christmas. I mean, no Thanksgiving, no Christmas. We're done by then.
Right.
We want to,
Right.
Well, that and family and work-life balance is important.
Where are you guys going to ride at? Just all over St. Louis?
We have it structured to, we have a couple different practices, A through F days. To answer the question directly, it's going to be a lot of Chubb riding.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of Greensfelder riding.
Yeah,
It's going to be a lot of St. Gnarls Enduro course riding. We're going to go down to Shepherd.
Nice.
That's where we're going to live.
Cool.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that once a week.
Sure.
And then we're going to have weekend events, and we're going to do 3 races per season. Season 1, season 2. We're going to race the whole MES and work with Mac Johnson, who has
Sure.
been amazing working with us. Everybody's been so open and so accepting. It's
Yep.
been amazing. So you're gonna have your kid at practice once a week. You're gonna have 3 races, and with 2 races, and one is the double top secret thing that we're working at.
Yeah, that's something that we're still working on.
Nice.
It'll be a weekend summit
Okay, cool.
at a place that has a lot of elevation. That's pretty close.
Nice.
And so
That'll be fun.
that's really just kind of the brass tacks of what you're going to get.
I think everybody knows what you're talking about
I
if
hope
they
so.
ride mountain bikes.
Yeah. And so you're going to get myself and Coach Jeff and Coach Cody.
And that would be, just to touch back on that without prying too much, that would be a youth event, right?
It would
Right.
be a youth-focused event.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I have had people ask me about adults potentially being in this program,
Right.
which it's really it's a youth-driven program.
Right.
If you're an adult, looking to get into what we're doing, I'm always actively looking for coaches. Right. Do I expect everyone to have a wealth of knowledge like a Jeff Powell or Mike Cudahy or Cody Rowe? The answer is no.
Right.
And don't forget about Josh Clark.
That's right,
Here's your
Josh
plug,
Clark.
bud. He is part of the group.
Yep.
We're going to make that announcement here as well. Another St. Charles, another NICA coach.
Right.
Gonna
The
be
Bears.
involved.
Who?
Josh Clark.
Sorry.
Joshua Clark. Level 2
don't know if I
NICA
know
coach out in
Josh.
St. Charles County.
Okay, so he's too far away from me. to
Right.
know.
You
Yeah.
probably
I
wouldn't come
forget
down
you're
here.
from St.
I'm a
Charles.
St. Charles
Yeah.
guy. I know it's still killing me sometimes, but
You're over here all the time.
I'm
Yeah,
over
and
here.
you
I
spend
know
your
I'm
life
from
over
West
here.
Yeah, and we also want to. I think it's important to say we're parents. I got 3 kids. I got 3 student athletes. Cody's got kids. You got kids.
Mhm.
We approach this program with. I think our passion and our knowledge base is evident, but we approach this as: is this going to be doable? Is this going to be attainable?
Yeah.
So we're going to practice out in St. Charles County. We're going to practice in St. Louis
Right.
County. We're going to make it accessible for both places.
Well, and the cool thing about St. Louis, whether you live in St. Charles or St. Louis or Jefferson County or
Mhm.
anywhere else in the state,
Jacob.
we have an insane amount of trails within an hour of anybody. No matter
Embarrassment.
where you're at,
Riches.
within an hour, you can get to every trail in St. Louis, and there's like 20 parks.
Dude, I have friends on the West Coast right now who I would call up and bring them out here to come ride, and they would not be bored.
Oh no, we get folks in all the
Dude.
time that are in for business or whatever it may be that come from, whether it's Colorado or Hawaii or where they have some really great riding and some great elevation, and they are always super impressed. But they're like, "Oh, I couldn't believe how nice you guys' trails are. Like that was super fun." And the difference is maybe we just don't have long descents and stuff, so we're kind of going up and down. But we have some insanely technical trail now, the more progressive, kind of
Mhm.
smoother machine built stuff's here too. So yeah, there's so much.
And
so
then as a
much
parent, you
insane
come down here. I
fun
mean, we're not
stuff.
limited by technology anymore, Adam. I can go over there and buy that Slash, which I have one coming. I'm super excited about that.
Right.
And your kid's gonna be on, a 160, 170 mil
Yep.
bike, and then roll it out to Bluffview for the first time.
Yep.
Might want to have a little
They
instruction.
need to know how to be in the air, and
Mm.
to get the wheels up off the ground is
Fully.
super important, because anytime the wheels go up off the ground, if they're not landing correctly, if they're not taking off correctly, those can result in very serious injuries if you're not doing it right. But if you're doing it right, then you're going to mitigate a lot of that risk. And
100%.
it's gonna be a whole lot of fun.
yeah, and an important thing to note, I like to bring this up all the time because I'm so excited, but down in Branson, which is, a scant 3.5 hours or so away, they're building Howler Bike Park, which is going to be lift access bike park. So,
Really?
yeah.
I love that whole area, dude. I love Branson and Springfield.
they've
Dude, I love
got-
Two Rivers. Shout out to
It's
Trail Spring.
so
Two Rivers.
beautiful down
dude,
there.
Dude, when we did the NICA race there, number one, Trail Spring was so accommodating. And if you guys haven't gone down to Two Rivers Bike
That's
Park,
my favorite.
go down there and stand at the top and just look over that
Mhm.
place.
It's why
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
the
It's
views
so
are
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
And even just driving in is really pretty.
Yeah.
Even if you miss your turn and you keep going past, it gets really pretty for a bit. So you may want to enjoy that a bit before turning around.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's super nice. And yeah, that whole kind of area down there is pretty. And, here in Eureka, we're technically the entrance to the Ozarks. And
For sure.
so we
foothills to
start
the
getting
Ozarks.
into it. So yeah, I think that's why we'll see you guys here a lot kind of out in the area. But yeah, so I think everybody should follow the Wheels Up page. There's going to be more details coming out soon as to how to get on the team, but
Mhm.
people can kind of expect to practice once a week. There's going to be different ability levels,
Mhm.
kids from 5th grade up to high school
Mhm.
or through high school. And then you're going to have 3 separate race events. Is
Per
it
season.
3 separate race events outside of the MES?
No,
Or
they'll be
those
MES.
you'll support 3 different races as part of the MES series.
We will do the
and
whole
then
MES
possibly
series.
one other race.
Correct.
I see.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're gonna do.
And are you
the
guys
whole-
going to keep your own
event.
points and stuff for your is there going to be some
No.
in team competition?
I think that's organic. I think that happens.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
I look Henry
Really?
Ford. My favorite quote by Henry Ford is, when was the first car race? And it was the day the second car rolled off the assembly line.
Nice.
I mean, when you get a bunch of kids together, athletes or mountain bikers,
Yeah.
we're competing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and realize like,
And they'll just look at the scoreboard. Sorry, I mean,
No, you're
interrupt you.
good, no, you're good.
I mean, when we go to these races, that's the beautiful thing about an enduro is it takes all the lip and the mouth out of it. There's empirical data, and this is how fast I went on this stage. This is how fast I went on this stage. This is how fast I went on this stage.
Well, I mean, technically, maybe maybe your suspension wasn't set up right, and your tires just weren't gripping that day. So I mean, there's plenty of factors maybe why one
Maybe you blew the.
wouldn't have done it.
Maybe you
as well.
didn't pre-ride one of the stages at the Chubb because you thought that you knew the course and you blew through the tape on stage 6.
Yeah, or somebody
Stuff
somebody
like that
must have,
happens
like-
as you can learn from experience.
Yeah, somebody must have knocked a log or a boulder into the corner right before I got into it because I'm pretty sure that wasn't there in practice. So.
Yep.
well, that's talking about tire pressure, talking about suspension setup. That's
All
all
super
stuff that we're going to also cover.
EBOB, every bolt-on bike, and we're gonna,
As a bike shop, it excites me a lot to know that there's going to be people out there because I mean that's an important thing, Cody, and just getting into you guys' experience. Between the 3 of you guys, you're 3 people I'm always excited to see come in the shop. You're very kind of personal, easy to talk to people. I think it's easy to tell whether it's Mike or Cody or Jeff. You're all very genuine people, and I think that has a lot to do with your kind of other careers as well. Cody, you've been in the bike industry for forever.
20 years now. Yep.
But the teaching aspect, I think, is the most important, and it kind of
Huge.
shows kind of person. And Jeff's the same way. Jeff's also a teacher, so that is really important to me as a parent to have. And then, of course, Mike, you're not a teacher technically, but as a nurse, you're constantly coaching people on how to be healthy again and really taking people back from that. So I think those are just super important traits, and I know it's easy for me to pick up on when you guys kind of walk in the shop and in the room. And I think for kids as well, it's really important too, because they can kind of see through nonsense.
you get 20 seconds, Adam. You get 20 seconds. That's the average attention span of a teenager or a kid.
Oh, really?
And you gotta really, you gotta be opportunistic and make it count. Because you're right, they got a really good BS filter,
Right.
and it keeps you honest.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a metered, practiced message in that 20 seconds,
No.
you're falling on deaf ears.
Right.
And that takes practice. I mean, I know I've ran my mouth a lot too much sometimes, but you got to be opportunistic with that 20 seconds.
Well, the nice thing, if you're mountain biking, though, you can make them pedal up a hill, and then they're tired, catching their breath, and a little bit of extra time.
we often know at like Nike practices, we're doing a good job when there's no talking.
Mhm.
All you hear is breathing.
Because I mean, mountain biking is hard work. So if a kid's going to get into it, he's going to have to work hard. There's no cheating getting to the top in Missouri until Howler's open, and maybe you'll have an opportunity to ride a lift up. But yeah, at least for now, and 99.9% of your riding is going to involve pedaling to the top of the hill, which is also one of the fun things. I think I don't know if do younger riders appreciate the climb as much as
They hate
adults tend to.
No, I hate it.
No, never gets better for them.
No, they
not
hate
till
it.
they get older. That
No.
takes years to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they hate it. They hate it. I mean, you have your outliers, just like in adults who are like, dude, I'm gonna go out and climb. But most of them, it's like they're putting in the work, man.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Except for if there's like a weird obstacle and then like only a couple of the guys can clear it, then I guess it starts getting fun at that point.
Well, it's one of those things. This program is really like not your average program, right? We're looking at making a premium program.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like 101 baseball.
Right.
This is this
It's a
is
club
gonna be-
team.
This
Right.
is a club.
It's a
team.
club select team.
It's
So-
we're looking for those kids that are wanting to do more.
Yeah,
They
and-
might already have gone and done an enduro, right? That's perfectly acceptable, right? We're not necessarily wanting to get all these kids that are totally fresh and get them. We want to get them at whatever stage they are and make it better, right? Show up, have the full race support, as far as, on the course, practice day, with mechanic support, and really, it's not going to be a bunch of kids just going sending jumps.
Yeah.
Is enduro just about jumping? The answer is no. Right? It's technical. It's fast. Right.
So we're going to do a lot of that non-Hollywood stuff of like another two teasers. Is one of our practice plans is we're going to have a session day. And a session day is like, for example, at Chubb on the stairs. And we're going to walk it, we're going to talk it, and then we're going to ride it.
Right.
And that's not very Hollywood, but what you gain out of seeing the terrain on a different level and walking it and seeing other riders go down it is invaluable. And so that
decision-making process is important as well, because that's going to help them when they go to other things, when they're riding with their buddies or whatever else. They're going to kind of know, okay, I need to look at what I'm doing first. I need to evaluate what I'm going to do before I take off. I'm going to look at, is it rocky? Is it rooty? Is my suspension going to get slammed down because there's a rock right before the lip? So it's going to help them kind of look at all those things, look at where they're going to land, look at, I don't know what else you guys factor in.
We're also going to have land days. You mentioned the word land. It's super important. Coach D. Tidwell, Ride to Train, or Enduro MTB training. Okay. Look him up. Yeah. Coach D. Tidwell was quite honestly somebody who I sought out on my own. I was like, who's winning all these races and how do they train? If you look up Coach D. Tidwell, you'll see him standing on the top of the BME podium several times. Nicest guy you'll ever meet. Lots of evidence-based training. A lot of
I have some unreleased video from BME last year that I'm going to release soon.
Oh, nice. And so one of the days is going to be a land day because, realistically, are we going to be able to practice right outside every day in February? No, but we'll have a land day where we have a space that we've rented in, socially distanced appropriate areas where we're going to do stuff straight from the Enduro MTB training catalog. That's from an exercise physiologist who does this for a living. And also, there's going to be some pretty good perks for being on this team. One of them is a little bit some money off for maybe your own personal training program from Enduro, or Train to Ride is really what it is. And Coach D. Tidwell, some parts purchases that we'll put out some other details. So this has been a big labor of love, and we like to think that we have everything covered. And so one of those days is going to be a session day, maybe a Chubb. Right. And then the other one, we're going to have a land day where it's like, we're going to do that not Hollywood stuff. We're going to do mobility prep. We're going to do flexibility prep. We're going to do injury prevention. We're going to do that stuff. Yeah. I'm pumped. I can talk about it all day, dude. I'm so pumped.
There's been a lot. This has been something that I've been looking at for well over a year. Yeah. And trying to find.
You've been up in the ante for really about 2 years. You've really been pressing hard. And, which is good,
and this is really the next evolution, right? Yeah. Of what I thought Wheels Up and myself could help offer, and that's putting together a really awesome team. I mean, from Mike, Jeff, Cody with a K, and Josh, really like there's really 4 great individuals there to really help, support this team. Obviously looking at, we have a ton of interest. Do I know how big these team's going to be here in St. Louis? The answer is no. I mean, or it's yet to be discovered because this is a launching new program.
How many kids can you handle? That's how big it'll be. Well, that'll be the only limiting factor.
And that's where, like, I am looking, actively. I know we talked in our meeting last night, looking for potentially more coaches, right? Because we want to keep a good coach ratio, right?
Cody's already international. So, Cody's international. He's got everything. He's got a dream board and a vision board.
You need to start doing
Hawaii, Russell Crowe, beautiful mind board. All these wheels up. Like, here's an Enduro team. Here's little wheelers.
I will say that there has been interest from across the state about this program because obviously, like, my connections with NICA and a lot of the other
turns out people in Kansas City and Springfield can ride really fast.
And there's some awesome trails in both places.
Legit.
And obviously more information about that as I come to help promote, doing that. We'll come over the next couple of weeks. Nice. But that's, my goal is to give kids and give adults, parents, a safe place to try to get your kids into this type of sport. Right. And to really coach them up, right? To where they're having fun, they have the team aspect, they have great coaches, and just have fun mountain biking, right? I know we were talking about that real
No.
evolution of kids riding from really young to really old. And I really call it like a lifetime rider, right? Just like in education, we call it lifetime learners. Like we're always evolving, we're always looking at what we're doing, and really giving these kids, a huge base of information to go off of, and to really push, like, I want to have these kids come into this program and be like, man, this is like the Boy Scout type program for mountain biking.
Sure.
Like, yeah, we came through it. This is something I want to put on my college resume. Like, hey, I became an instructor down the road.
Right.
And you see that stuff happen with NICA. Like these kids come through a program like NICA, which is a great program, right? Focused on cross country. Well, we're not focusing on cross country. This is really like, one of the first conversations I had about this program was with Chris Molesky, the director of the Missouri League. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but this is something very separate,
different,
and very different. We're not looking to compete.
It's separate. There's crossover for the
Correct.
riders, and but yeah, completely different type of thing.
You can 100%. I mean, even if you want to do one practice a week with the Enduro team and still be committed to your NICA team.
Yeah.
I mean, I got one student
And you
athlete.
should be.
Yeah. I got one student athlete myself, Luke
And
Skywalker, is
that's
going to
what
be
we
doing that.
want.
Yeah.
Like we specifically want these kids to where, hey, they've been working with the Rockwood composite team, right? We want them to be able to have their practices, do that, but then I can still be on that team,
Right.
On the Enduro team,
Right.
and have that crossover to where there's no compete, right? We're getting kids on bikes in different ways.
And kids, just because you're really familiar with Nike, even if your kid shows little interest in mountain biking, but it kind of knows how to ride a bike, there's other things within Nike other than competing to race, whether that's volunteering or Nike's got other programs off the bike that kids can start their involvement.
They trail corps, so they're working on trails.
We had a lot of student athletes who didn't race. They just came to practice and went to ride bikes and be with their friends.
Yep.
Well, and
absolutely.
let's be clear too. That is another thing with the Enduro team. Do kids have to come and race? Do they have to show? The answer is no, right? We want them to be able to come, even if these kids are like, hey, I want to have the skills.
You're going to encourage them to do it, though.
We're going to set up to be able to, for them to have that success and be able to go do it. But do they have to attend every event? The answer is no. Right? We want them to be able to attend the events that they want. We want it to be a program that gives them a lot. That also includes a lot of flexibility, right? Because, we expect a lot of these kids to race in NICA or be multi-sport athletes.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these kids like Oliver Taha, who was in our teaser video, he's a great bass player, right? We want these kids to be able to play other sports, right? And to have fun and not necessarily have to focus down to that one sport, and keep mountain biking to where at some point, and I mean, I played high school and college baseball. At some point in your life, baseball ends. I hate to say it, right? I love baseball. I'm super still passionate about it. My son plays competitive select baseball, which is super expensive, but it's so much fun, right? But at some point, baseball is going to end.
Even softball ends.
Even softball.
Even if you continue on extra innings with softball, it's going to end too.
That ends at a point. But you see a lot of us that are older, there's guys that are riding 60s, 70s,
50s,
80s, 50s, right? Still in my 40s, thank you.
Right.
Puppy.
Well, and that's the thing. Mountain biking, you can definitely take with you forever. And, I think kind of the coolest thing about the Enduro team is that kids can go to races and have somebody 100%. There who's going to, because a lot of parents don't know anything about bikes or how to maintain them. And on race day, kids are going to be pushing their bikes. Things are going to come up and they're going to need some assistance and help. Or they're going to fall and they're going to cut their leg and they're going to need somebody there to make sure if they're able to keep riding that they can, or if they shouldn't be continuing to ride that they don't. And so, having coaches there, I think is huge for the younger riders, because even with the Missouri Enduro Series last year, we were a title sponsor of that, and like every race had like 30 kids. Or the St. Louis races.
And we just want to make those kids better and a better, safer environment. And I like to call coaching and what we do is like a cheat code. And there's a couple little cheat codes. One of them is, have you ever put on all your gear and actually went out and just rode in it?
Yeah.
If you're showing up to the race and you're ripping tags off gear and wearing a full face helmet for the first time, you're too late.
Right.
If you're another little golden nugget is one more run. I could show you a bunch of X-ray pictures of me in broken places where Mustache will tell you it's always one more run.
Yeah.
One more run.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
try to
really
stop
hard because you
myself
feel
from
so
saying that.
jazzed and you want to do one more run, but one more run's where you get that urgent care
Right.
bell.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna pull the reins back a couple times.
Yeah, you got to end on a high note.
Yeah,
That's the important-
exactly.
That's the way to do that. And that's, you know, yeah, I think just having people to let people know those type of things is
Fully.
important too,
Fully.
because you have to learn from somebody,
Mm.
you know, and if you're a parent and you don't ride, then it's important that your kid's got some positive
Yeah.
influence.
And you can also, even if you're like me, I mean, I my kid races a Skywalker, Luke. And this is it's an embarrassing story, but I've been working on how to teach that kid how to ride a bike, a two-wheeler forever, like
Okay.
when he was 3 or 4.
Okay.
And just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
He goes down the street to the neighbors. He's like, the neighbor dad just taught me how to ride a bike, Dad. I'm like, because as a parent, they don't listen to us.
No,
Sometimes it comes on deaf ears.
my mother taught my daughter to ride a bike. Actually, I did not get to
they gonna
teach
listen
my
to you.
daughter
And
to
so
ride a
we're
bike.
that other
As
voice.
a parent or, you know, husband and wife, you know, I have a lot of those, you know, where a husband rides and a wife's learning to ride, and, you know, they're just
Doesn't
going
work.
to sit there and do this,
Yeah.
right? You know, so taking and having that professional, you know, that's what we're looking for is, you know, that professional experience for these kids. And
Confidence.
I want to thank you for having us on the.
yeah,
I mean, you're like,
That's
dude,
fine.
you're my people. You gave me a place to be. I
Yeah.
mean, some of my best memories in the past decade are sitting out in front of Camilla's after
Nice.
the first MES race that this crazy dude made this mountain bike shed.
Nice.
You know, at the old location. I mean, just what you've brought to the area and the culture and the passion. Like, I can tell within about 45 seconds when I walk in a shop of talking to somebody if they know what they're talking about. And Adam Scott's always known what. I mean, I put a Google review up that was like, passionate riders who know what they're talking about.
We probably use that in ads.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm super thankful
Cool.
for you to have me and Cody and to give us this platform. And I love this shop.
Well, and it's funny because so I ended up here. I owned an extermination business before I opened the bike shop, and I hang Christmas lights, which I'm supposed to be taking down Christmas lights today, but I'll start tomorrow. But your cousin,
Yeah,
is
Kurt.
Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle.
And Michelle owns it's like an
Michelle's
old school,
Cafe.
yeah, Michelle's Cafe here in your Old Town Eureka. It's like an old school Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
She makes really good gooey butter cake, but
Amazing.
she's got like it. I say it's an old school Italian restaurant because like I grew up on the hill, so all the restaurants
That's why
had
we
like
get along.
yeah. There's a room that looks like a kitchen.
Yep.
Always in there with its own table and 3 walls. So you're kind of like on your own. And I always grew up with that and bread and all these kind of things. And then, so Michelle's is awesome because they've got their own little, like it's set up. It looks like a little kid, like you're sitting at a kitchen table and you're kind of
family area.
So that's my favorite, but her husband, Kurt. Does, he's a leasing agent. Yeah. And when we had originally looked at a space, I think we started talks in like February 2017. And then the space we originally looked at just needed too much work. So I started getting on the hunt again. That's when we found the location next to Melvin Brewery.
Dude, this place is amazing, but I got to tell you, I loved your old place.
Yeah.
I mean, this place is better.
It's bigger.
But I mean, there was just something so punk rock and so grungy about going to that place where there was just like amazing stuff. And your merchandising has always been on point. But I just have personality.
Yeah, and one thing, if parents happen to still be watching, if your kids getting into enduro or jumping bikes, one big thing for me is having a ton of kids protection. So we carry full face helmets from $70 to $300 for kids. We carry full body armor, chest protectors, knee pads, elbow pads, pants, shorts, everything a youth rider needs. We carry all that and we have a ton of it. So kids protection is huge for me. I like to have it here if people want to put their kid in it to do it, because that's what I do. And, you know, kids don't care about wearing full armor and a full face helmet, so put full armor and a full face helmet on them.
Exactly. Get used to it early.
Like they don't care.
Mandatory
full gear.
Yeah, I think if full face helmets look so cool, that's why like I wear my full face helmet because I feel like I'm awesome when I wear it. So, that's.
I can
Get a
tell you, I
nice-
hit a trail a lot faster when I had elbow pads, knee pads on,
Yeah.
some hip pads, and my full face helmet. I'm like, you get dressed like you're gonna get thrown from a train.
Yeah.
You can.
If your kid plays hockey, you're not going to send them out there with just skates and a stick. You're
shoe
gonna,
strap.
you're gonna have everything on him so that he can get up and play the next day as well. So
100%.
do the same thing with kids. But yeah, no, Kurt had. It ends up for like the months previous, he'd been calling around because he's trying to fill this spot up because he knew the brewery was coming. So he's like, oh, to help get the brewery signed, I'll get a bike shop in here and that'll help entice this cool brewery from Wyoming. And so he called around and he was like, I couldn't get anybody to open a bike shop in here. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? I was like, it's about to pop, dude. Like, let's do this. So like, I didn't have any experience in retail. I didn't have a ton of credit built up or anything along those lines. So Kurt had to really bust his tail with my landlord that was over there to work out a deal to get us in there. I don't know if anybody else would have rented me a commercial space like that. Other than that, so no, I mean, Kurt's kind of hugely responsible because he kind of saw the vision for the area. So yeah, worked out really awesome, and I wouldn't be here without kind of what he did to get me in there.
Awesome.
So yeah, Eureka is a really cool town. Plenty of good places to eat. Michelle's is definitely one of my favorites. So people should go there or over to Melbourne if they're here in the area, or Camilla's, obviously.
Camilla's.
My
Yeah.
grandpa owned a business here in Eureka for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Firehouse Gallery. So
Yeah.
We love.
Turns out
Eureka.
there's a few good mountain bike trails right down
That's
44 and 109 too.
Yeah.
Well, sweet guys, thanks for coming by. Appreciate
All right,
it.
brother.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you.
See you.